and Council on Tuesday, September 17th, 2019. Could we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Miles,
Here?
Vice Mayor Lingenfelter,
I didn't do it.
Councilmember Mello Keener,
Here.
Councilmember Nelson. Here. Councilmember Scott Staley,
Present.
Councilmember Watkins,
Here.
Councilmember Waite.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. All work session items listed are for discussion only. No action can or will be taken. The primary purpose of work session meetings is to provide the City Council with the opportunity for in-depth discussion and study of specific subjects. Public comment is not provided for on the agenda and may be made only as approved by consensus of the Council. In appropriate circumstances, a brief presentation may be permitted by a member of the public or another interested party on the agenda item if invited by the mayor or city manager to do so. The mayor may limit or end the time for such presentations. The first item on our work session agenda tonight is the recycling program presentation. Manager Foggin.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. It's a pleasure to be here with you at the work session. We are excited to share with you, most of you have been watching in the news some kind of disheartening information about recycling. I think that part of our discussion will follow that same vein. But Rob and his team have been working really hard to see what we can do to actually maintain some kind of recycling program. And so what we're going to do is we're going to walk you through kind of where we've been with recycling and kind of what successes we're currently having and what our plans are moving forward. So Rob, you and your team are ready to go.
All right. Thank you very much. Again, tonight we're going to talk about our recycling program. So back in 2017, China had initiated some new standards addressing contamination in the recyclable commodities that they would accept into their market. This was fully implemented in 2019. It's had a pretty a substantial impact, especially on the western U.S., which was that was our main market for disposal of commodities. Some of the, and you'll see, I'm sure a lot of you have been reading papers or and I saw there was a good presentation at the League of Cities about kind of what's going on in Arizona. And it's kind of strange, but a lot of us are kind of getting to the same place. Casa Grande, Sierra Vista, they both eliminated their curbside programs, brought it into one central location for a drop program. Surprise is doing something a little bit different. They're maintaining their curbside pickups, but all those materials are being taken directly to the landfill. So I guess just in summary, large and small recycling programs around the state and around the country are facing some of the same challenges. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our prior drop program and then the new program practices. So under the prior program, we had 7 drop-off locations around the state or around the city. And people, we had never done a formal survey, but we estimate that the majority of the folks using those sites were county residents. Some of the busiest sites were the sites that were located close to the city limits. Recycling items are separated by the customer into labeled containers. We picked them up in separate trucks, brought them back to the yard, and sorted them. We picked up mixed paper and cardboard directly from the drop sites and took those to a local vendor. All the commodities were taken back to Public Works and sorted. And again, that was kind of a labor-intensive process. 1.5 full-time employees and 5 inmate workers. So aluminum, steel, and tin were all recycled locally. Plastics 1 through 7 were taken to Las Vegas, and glass and e-waste were taken to Las Vegas. Contamination was the biggest issue with the old program. We had a contamination rate of 47%. Transportation costs was another issue. Each trip we took up to Las Vegas cost us $581. And inmate labor, while a great resource for us, wasn't always reliable. There were several weeks where there'd be an incident at the prison, and we would not receive our inmates. Again, some of the program challenges. Many items were landfilled. When Eddie had gone up to a presentation up at the Republic facility in Las Vegas. They run the material recovery facility up there. They had stated that over half of the material they handle in that site, they end up landfilling. The unmanned locations were convenient for the public, but essentially we were providing a free trash service. We would have couches and other large items dropped off at those locations that we would have to go out and pick up, in addition to just the trash that was in the containers. So we started talking about various options to make some operational changes to the program in May. Again, they were implemented with the focus of addressing contamination, reducing the transportation cost, reducing labor costs, fully utilizing local markets, and continuing to provide recycling service to our customers. In June, we had received a notice from our local vendor that they would no longer accept commingled commodities because they had been accepting paper and cardboard commingled. So the changes were announced on all the various city Facebook pages, the website, city's television channel. There was an article in the local paper, and signage was placed at the 7 drop sites. Since that time, we've been doing additional outreach just through special events we've been attending. We worked the fair all last weekend, and we're providing the information on the changes there. And generally, we attend every First Friday event to try to share that information with the public. So on June 24th, we did soft opening at the new location. The containers from the original drop sites were removed during the week of June 24th, and on July 1st, the new site officially opened. Changes were made to the types of items accepted at the new location. So the commodities accepted now are cardboard, chipboard, paper, and that'd be shredded paper and newspaper, plastics 1 and 2, glass, and e-waste. So the big portion of it was to consolidate our drop locations to one location that would be manned. We would have an employee there. We could educate the public on sorting and kind of sort behind folks as they left to address the contamination problem. So the new site's out of Public Works. That's 3700 East Andy Devine. Initially, we had some issues with traffic out there and people kind of getting lost in the yard, but we've added a bunch of additional signage, made some other changes to try to address that. So the new drop site is open 7 days a week, Monday through Friday from 7 to 3:30, and Saturdays and Sundays from 7 till noon. And the public brings their recyclables to us, sorts them into the labeled bins, and we do have an employee there to help do some public education. And as folks are coming and going, we're checking on contamination, trying to address as much of that as we can when we receive the materials. Under the new program, contamination rates decreased from 47% to less than 10. And according, we've been asking people if they don't mind giving us the information, but 60% of our users now are city residents. So the new location is used by an average of 650 people weekly. Any given weekday, it's about 120 people that come out to us. Because the quality of the commodities has improved drastically under the new program, instead of paying $330 per month in July, we actually received a check for $40. So the $40 was for about 4,000 pounds of plastic. And the $3,300 would have been what we would have paid for the processing of the cardboard, the mixed paper, and that was a push that month. There was no charge for those items. Again, we've been working diligently with our local and out-of-town vendors to try to maximize the efficiency and return of the program. So now we actually have a local source for our plastics, so cardboard, number one, number two plastics, aluminum, tin, steel are all transported to a local facility. Glass still goes to Las Vegas. It takes us a long time to accumulate a load of glass. E-waste, newspaper and shredded paper, chipboard, still go to that MRF in Las Vegas. So again, this is from June, prior to the changes, a little bit over 47 tons of mixed paper. We were paying $75 per ton, about $3,500 for that month. And in July, again, the quantities are a lot less under the new program. 9.7 tons of cardboard was taken at no cost. Under the prior program, plastics were taken to Las Vegas. Again, the trip cost $581, and the per ton tipping fee was $25. And again, in July, we received $40 for our plastics locally. So educating the public continues to be, what we need to work on. It's just even being out at the fair, it's it still kind of amazes us how many people haven't heard about any of this, but I guess we deal with it every day. So, we still have a lot of public education to do, and I think that's been a big benefit from the Clean City Commission, is that they've been real conscientious about special event attendance and public outreach that way. Again, we had some traffic issues that we have addressed, and we're still looking for ways to improve that. And again, the commodities market's going to continue to change, so I think that some of these operational changes are going to be a work in progress as we try to, again, reduce the transportation costs, fully utilize our local vendors, and reduce contamination so that we're providing a better product. So here's the cost under the previous program. It was a little bit over $20,000, and again, that was handling 91 tons collected per month. Now, that's what we were hauling. That includes what we were hauling to Las Vegas, which they told us that half of that was ending up going to landfill anyway. So under the new program, at 20 tons, and that's for the first 2 months, that's a cost of $12,000 per month. Again, under the old program, contamination rate ran around 47%. As we implemented the changes, there's been a significant decline in tonnage. I think a lot of that is that residents from the outlying areas that were using the drop sites for trash dumpsters are no longer able to do that. Some residents probably just don't want to drive the extra. If they had one that was down the street from them or on the way to work or on the way home, they may not want to drive the extra distance out to Public Works. And there has been some frustration with us on the limiting some of the commodities that we're taking to the commodities that we actually have a market for. So this is a kind of a cost comparison per ton from the old program to the new program. There's a certain amount of fixed cost in here that the labor cost is going to be fixed no matter what tonnage we're processing. We're still paying for the same number of hours. But under our projections at 45 tons, we see a savings of $3,000 a month. That's what we're showing. Again, I think a big part of us to get more efficient will be to publicize the program and try to get that tonnage back up. So again, the operational changes we made, why? We're trying to reduce contamination. And through that, we've done increased public education. Again, we were able to open up a new local market for one of our commodities. We're reducing commodity tipping fees, which is just starting to, we're just starting to realize some of those savings. Again, in July, there was no charge for cardboard, and we received $40 for plastic, and we're hopeful that that trend can be expected to continue. Reduced transportation costs, again, utilizing local vendors and reducing the number of trips to Las Vegas. Eliminated some of the trash dumping at our drop sites, which is costing us extra money to send staff members out there to clean that up. And again, the overriding goal is to try to continue to provide a recycling service to our customers, given the current commodities market. Moving on, I guess, to the curbside pilot project. We started that in November 2017. That serves 550 homes, which is approximately 5% of overall city sanitation customers. It's located in Wallach Ranch and Legacy neighborhoods. And the program participants are provided with a separate can for single stream commingled recycling. So those recyclables are picked up every Thursday and brought to Public Works Yard for processing. Again, it is single stream, so it's all commingled. Recyclables are loaded and delivered to the material recovery facility in Las Vegas. Contamination is about 19.6% in the curbside program. Participation is low at 47% of the households in the program participating. And this program has the same transportation costs. Everything here goes to Las Vegas. So that all has to be trucked up to Las Vegas. And again, it's the same issue with the Easy Drop program, is that the material recovery facility we're utilizing in Las Vegas is landfilling half of the materials that they receive. We were able to find a third-party vendor who is saving us some money on our load. He's able to haul doubles up there, double loads up there at $400 per. So we were paying $581 per load, and now we're down to $400 per load. With this type of single stream commingled program, it's really essential to have the right equipment and facilities. So without a material recovery facility locally, without balers, sorters, all that's having to be trucked up to Vegas for that work to be done. If we had a local facility, then again, we may be able to sort some of that locally and be able to utilize some of our other local vendors. But yeah, as it stands now, without that equipment for that material recovery facility, everything's going to Las Vegas. So again, 550 homes, average cost a little bit over $3,000 a month. Average tonnage is 6.6 tons. Some plans and policies, the citizen survey was done in November, December 2018. And this is just an opportunity for me to brag on my people some, but the sanitation department tied the fire department with the highest citizen satisfaction rate in the citizen survey. As most of you are aware, we have a sanitation rate study that's underway. We're looking at, and we asked them to look at operational changes. What can we do better? What are best management practices from around the country that maybe we weren't aware of or haven't incorporated? So that's going to all be part of the sanitation rate study, along with what rates are needed to actually sustain the sanitation fund. This was kind of all dictated by the fact that we haven't been able to buy trucks for the last 3-4 years. So what services are we providing that maybe aren't necessary? What services are we providing that we're not receiving any revenues for? So that's all going to be included in the sanitation rate study. So as far as next steps, so we'd like to conclude the neighborhood curbside recycling pilot program, continue the easy recycling drop program at its new location, And that's, again, like I say, that'll be a work in progress, and that may change on a weekly basis on what we can and can't accept, or what vendors we have available for the disposition of those commodities. And as I guess as through the rate study, we'd be asking council to make a decision on adding either a mandatory curbside for all, or adding as an opt-in for the current solid waste services. But again, that'll be part of the analysis with the sanitation rate study. So with that, I can try to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah,
Vice Mayor?
thank you. This question is for Manager Foggin. The rate study that has been mentioned, is that also going to be looking at the rates paid by folks in Havasu and Bullhead that are maybe utilizing private providers as well?
Yes, so the outside provider conversation, and also making sure that we're comparing apples to apples in those studies are going to be important as well. I know there's effort to get all the agreements from our neighboring communities to see what's being offered and what the potential could be for looking at privatization versus what we're doing right now will be definitely looked at.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Thank you. You know, the only comment I have is, well, first, thank you for keeping on, trying to keep this program alive, and until we do have all the information. I did hear some comments, even today, that traffic that you're trying to control around Public Works is really, it's important to continue to evolve that, because from what I was told, you know, just waiting, the people can block the access to come in, and so I really appreciate that you're looking at that traffic pattern and trying to improve that access.
Thank you, ma'am. And we actually do have a project funded for this year to add a new decel lane into that north driveway, so there would be direct access instead of people having to drive all the way through our parking lot to get to that gate. So
Oh, okay, good.
that will help.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you very much. The next item that we'll have a report on is the Building Facade Improvement Program. Manager
Great.
Foggin.
Thank you, Mayor. As we introduce this new possible program that will, I think, be useful for our downtown Beale Street and surrounding Beale Street area, before we get started, I want to point out the great dedication of my team. Sylvia, who's standing before you, was down this morning in Phoenix having her son sworn into the Air Force. And we're just, you know, it's always great when we have kids serve in the military, and it's wonderful that we have some of our team members that have military kids and family, and we appreciate the service. But I want to just point out that Sylvia climbed back in the car after sending her son on his way, climbed back in the car to be here for this presentation. So, and just
Thank you,
so
Sylvia.
thank you.
Puffy eyes, but that's okay.
Sylvia, here's your first Air Force joke. You know that the Air Force was the first branch of the military, right? Because God was the first one to ping wings on angels.
That's right.
More to come. Thank
Oh,
you.
someone's at the door. Someone's at the door. All right, and so just as an introduction, Gary and Sylvia, with my suggestion, have looked at different ways in which we can support our downtown, and one of those ways is a grant program that we're going to walk you through. Obviously, this is kind of, I'll say this is a high-level introduction to the program. We're certainly not even close to having all the details ironed out, but we wanted to use this work session to get the conversation kicked off. I think that this is a program that we can use as a city to invest in the downtown. And so without stealing any more of Sylvia's presentation, I'll turn it over to Sylvia.
Thank you for such a wonderful introduction. So I'm actually very excited about this program as well. So I'm going to start, I did research from various communities to see what various communities offered and tried to compile something that looks like it would work for our area, and of course ready for any input that you have. So the purpose of the facade improvement program is to improve the appearance of the facade. Closer? Okay,
It's
louder.
been turned up.
Okay.
but I need you talking.
I will do that. Here we go. Okay. So the purpose of the facade improvement program is to improve the appearance of the facade, the street-facing exteriors of commercial structures within a designated area in downtown Kingman. The intent of the FIP is to stimulate revitalization and private sector capital investment by proactively addressing deteriorating property conditions and encouraging improvements which increase economic vitality. The FIP will be managed by the City of Kingman's Planning and Economic Development Department. And here's a little picture before and after of one example from the city of Mesa, Arizona, that has this program in place. Benefits. Benefits of this program is an attractive facade that can attract more customers, more people downtown, can potentially increase sales, property owners and tenants more motivated to make additional improvements, and just improve the overall look of the downtown area. And throughout the slideshow, you'll see little examples from various areas that have this program in place. Who is eligible? Property owners and tenants of commercial buildings within the designated area of downtown Kingman. Participants who propose a facade improvement that will contribute to the visual enhancement of the property as viewed from the public right-of-way. The proposed pilot project area includes a portion of Andy Devine Avenue and Beale Street between 1st Street and 10th Street. Eligible improvements: exterior painting, cleaning, facade repair, plants and landscaping, awnings and canopies, doors and windows, facade and display window lighting, fascia, tile, trim, metalwork, and other decorative elements. Ineligible improvements include new building construction, roof repairs, security systems, installation of razor wire and metal bars, personal property, interior window coverings, any interior work, parking lot paving and striping, any improvements not visible from the public right-of-way, any items that are not allowed by the City of Kingman Building Code. So FIP programs encourage private reinvestment. $20,000 is currently budgeted for the 2019-2020 program. The city will match selected property owners up to a maximum of $5,000 who will participate in this program. A total partnership between private property owners and the City of Kingman can equal a reinvestment of $40,000. So a sample of reimbursements is an applicant must submit for a minimum of $1,000 in facade improvements. The maximum reimbursements amount is $4,000. And this is showing with commercial properties, minimum project cost of $1,000, applicant match requirement $20,000, the 20%, which we would be the 80%, and then showing a maximum reimbursement of $4,000. Funding would be rewarded on a first-come, first-served basis until the funding is expended. Applications would be reviewed on a monthly basis. So the application process, applicant would submit an application. It should include proposed renovation, 3 contractor bids, site plan, permission from the owner. Staff will review the applications. Applicant will be given notice to proceed. Then the applicant needs to obtain any required permits. Upon completion, we'd inspect the facade improvement, and applicant would submit copies of the paid bills. Applicant is reimbursed by the city, and the project must be completed within 6 months of application approval. And that's the end of my presentation. I didn't realize I was there already myself.
Thank you, Ms. Schaefer. Are there any questions? Okay. Counselor.
When can we start?
Council-
My question, who's going to be in charge of the decision-making?
Well, at this point, we have the economic development team as taking in the applications for review on a monthly basis.
Okay.
I actually think that was a serious question.
The sooner we agree on the outline of our proposal, we can get started.
So the funding for this is already in the budget?
Correct.
Okay, excellent.
Yes, so we have earmarked $20,000 for this initial program, and how quickly is really, I think we've got a good set of bones in which we just need to flesh out all of what we are willing to pay for. And one of the challenges, I'll tell you that these programs are extremely successful in changing your downtown. The challenges that we end up running into, if there's any, the one I would point out is that the facade program needs to have some sideboards, and that means that we have color palettes and we have some design standards that we have to work through, and what we're willing to put money towards. And so for an example, I'll give you a good example. I buy a building, I own that building, and I decide that I want to paint it, I don't know, green and orange. Okay? I don't know if that would ever happen in our downtown. That building doesn't exist down there. But if we got an application in and it didn't meet the color palette of the program, and the person, we wouldn't be telling that person that they can't do what they want to do. We would just say that we weren't willing to use our funds to help that. We would deem that to not be an improvement to our downtown. That tends to be a little bit of the challenge with the facade program. But those are very few and far between. And then the other piece that we run into that tends to be a challenge is that we have building owners that are do-it-yourselfers, and because we want our investment to last over time, we want to make sure that, if you're going to paint, anybody can run a paintbrush, but professionals make sure the building's properly cleaned, they use the right equipment, and we obviously want our part of the investment to last a long time. And so there's just going to be a few of those things that you're going to see, and it's not discounting, if we have a building owner and they're an extremely good painter, for instance, I mean, that's, we will, I think, through the application process, identify that, and we wouldn't reimburse the person for his or her time. There's a bug, sorry. We wouldn't reimburse them for their time, but we would reimburse them for the materials for that project. But there's just a couple of bumps in those.
Will this come back to council as a completed program?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, 'cause
Councilor Scott Staley, did you have a question?
So on those design standards, are we going to follow just historic color palette? There's a already set historic color palette. And then on design, when we choose time period?
Yeah, so that becomes a little bit of a challenge for Beale Street.
It sure does.
Because it's a commingling of the 50s colors, which aren't the traditional downtown colors. And so those are a few things that we've got to get ironed out. Because, the building that jumps out at me is the event center, right down the street, right? It's a nice building, the color's not offensive. Thank you, Carl. That thing's buzzing around my head. But that is going to be a challenge for our downtown because, and I know we can find a couple of color palettes that we like that fit those motifs of the kind of so I'm used to the historic building color palette, the one that you're referring to. It's widely accepted, it's accessible. Usually if you walk into a paint store and you say, I need a historic color. The person can hand you, there's this palette that lines that out. The 50s one, I don't know, a little bit of research is going to have to be done on that one. But the design standards are going to be important because it's going to be the city investing in these buildings. And like I said, if you want a deep purple building, that's up to you, but whether we want to invest in it is probably a different question.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Just 3 questions for the city manager. First of all, I love the presentation, and I think it's great. So back onto your point of you want to make sure that whatever the city helps to fund, that it's done correctly. Perhaps in the application, you would ask for maybe just a really brief method of approach plan, just to make sure that it's done correctly.
Yep.
And then under exterior painting, I see an opportunity to incorporate public art here, and would public art murals be included in exterior painting?
You know, that's a great question. It's not something that we've really talked about. Mural paintings are a little bit of might be a little bit more of a challenge. Art is in the eye of the beholder. So that's something that we'd have to flesh out. It's
But
not something we've talked
If somebody
about.
owns a building, maybe they could go through some sort of artist panel.
Yeah.
Do we have local artists here? I know we don't
Yeah,
have any
yeah.
green and orange buildings, but do we have
Yeah.
local artists?
We
here?
do have local
Oh, okay.
artists. So, yeah, you know, we could, if it's, you know, one of the things that we did not address in this plan, or this program, was we didn't talk about signs, and we didn't talk about art. And I know there are some programs, facade grant programs that have incorporated the art aspect, or more particularly signs. And a lot of communities take the facade program and then they have a separate sign and art program. And those tend to work pretty well separately. I don't know how well they'll work together, but we definitely can look at that.
Cool. And then my last question would be, how would it be advertised once it's approved?
So I think what our plan would be to have something sent to each property owner within the district that's been proposed, just letting them know that we've got this program and here's how you take advantage of it.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Mayor?
Yes, Counselor.
Sylvia,
Watkins.
first, thanks for the presentation. We appreciate it. And congratulations, Mom.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
I know it's already stated in here, it says commercial properties only, correct?
Yes.
And then are we focusing this on certain streets, for example, like Beale and Annie Devine, or are we going to open it up more to all of downtown?
Well, yeah, I think they have it far back. Right here.
Okay, right there,
So,
Annie Devine and
yeah,
Beale Street, okay.
Proposed pilot project on Annie Devine and Beale from 1st through 10th.
Okay.
Any other questions? So $20,000, 40 businesses could take $5,000 chunks to their,
Four could, yes.
for improvement. That would be wonderful.
You know, and that's one of the things that we have to, and will always, I think each year need to be revisited, is what's that percentage
For.
gonna be, right? The percentage, depending on how many people are taking advantage of the program and what is getting done with it. And so there's 2 decisions that we'll have to make on a yearly basis. The percentage share of the grant, so is that going to be 90-10? Is it going to be 80-20? Is it going to be 50-50? So that's one of the decisions. The other decision will be what's the maximum draw amount? And so depending on what's budgeted, you know, how much money we have to put towards the program, that could go up and it could go down. And so.
I guess actually it's 5.
Right.
5
So
could be.
we're proposing for this round,
Yeah.
$5,000 would be the maximum grant amount at an 80-20 share. So we pay 80%,
Yeah,
building owner
4 to
pays
5,
20%.
20,000. So that would be quite significant if 5 businesses chose to upgrade. at that facade program, so yay. Yes, Counselor.
Are we talking about just Beale and Andy Devine, or the businesses that are located on the streets, you know, between Beale and Andy between First and 10th? Because we have a lot of businesses on those side streets that are small that probably wouldn't take the full amount, but $1,000, $2,000 to paint or put on an awning.
Correct, yeah, so we put it, Andy Devine and Beal, but it could include those individuals, property owners in there, and then the minimum project cost needs to be 1,000. So
Right.
just kind of what we get, we can review.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I
Okay.
think we better move to our next
Okay,
item, but thank you so much,
you're welcome.
Ms. Schaefer. Okay, commission goals review, our final topic.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. So I'm going to go over the notes that were from the joint council commission meeting held a few months back. So the process on June 29th, the City of Kingman held a workshop at the Hampton Inn for all the city commissions to receive additional training and establish their goals for the upcoming year. There were representatives from each commission and then their council liaisons present. The commissioners received information about open meeting law guidelines, the results of the citizen survey in the city's strategic plan, the roles and responsibilities of the commission members, the chairs, the council liaisons, and the staff liaisons, and then how to set good public policy. After receiving the above training and updates, they worked with their council and staff liaisons to create 2 to 3 goals for the upcoming year. So for the Airport Advisory Commission, the goals that they outlined were to create an airport master plan, to improve the city infrastructure, the city grant approval process, to gauge interest in establishment of a museum at the airport with the Historic Preservation Commission, and then looking at possible grant opportunities. The Clean City Commission set goals for public outreach and community involvement to include special event attendance, social media, and education with their essay and poster contest. Their next goal was to maintain a sustainable, cost-effective recycling program that could reduce contamination and utilize local markets for commodities. Next, they want to focus on community cleanup activities, adopt a block, expanding that program to parks and trails. And then they want to focus on the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle. The Economic Development Advisory Commission set out goals to work on programs that continue to attract tourists to the downtown shops and restaurants, to continue to support efforts to establish a full-blown electric car museum, to continue to support the historical aspect of downtown Kingman, and to support an air museum at the Kingman Airport. The Historic Preservation Commission set goals to participate in local organizations by creating a handout to promote their commission, and that's a 1-year goal to reach 5 organizations. They'd like to perfect their historic property or eligibility list according to SHPO and National Registry guidelines. And they'd like to identify and encourage historic projects in our community which need our assistance. The Municipal Utilities Commission would like to review water and sewer, CIP and master plans, review the Water Sustainability Committee's proposed flood infiltration projects and policies, and review and provide a recommendation on the proposed stormwater rate study. The Parks, Aquatics, Recreation, and Golf Commission would like to work through a Parks Master Plan to include aligning with the general plan, budget constraints, locations, and programs. They want to focus on safety of the public and the staff, including the parks and the trails. And then they want to set a goal of opportunities to generate revenue in the parks, such as grants and fundraisers. The Planning and Zoning Commission, their goals, number 1, how do we support the planning and zoning staff with the changes in the zoning ordinance? Infrastructure review site plans, sidewalks, curbs, and building facade. And then continued education for the Planning and Zoning Commissioners. The Transit Advisory Commission wants to set a goal of creating a short-range plan for 1 to 2 years, an inner-city connection, including access and mobility partnership grant, and demonstrate support from the cities, and then a transit hub with a customer service center. And that is it. Does anybody have any questions that I may be able to assist you in answering?
Are there any questions? I have a question. On the Historic Preservation Commission, identify and encourage historic projects in our community which need assistance. Does the task force that we set up on the Beale Hotel include representation from this commission? Several. Good, because that's an important task force that I've been asked about. And so that is in the process of being formed, is that right?
Well, yes, it's been formed. Just getting all the parties together has been extremely challenging. But we are working diligently to get everybody at the table.
Okay, thank you very much. I've been asked about that in the community, so. Any other questions, comments? Well, we appreciate the update on these commission goals, and we'll look forward to seeing how those translate into their activities in this year, actually. Thank you. Ms. Meredith? Okay. I think that concludes our work session agenda. And, pardon? We actually finished with a little time to spare, so we can take a break. And I now call this meeting to an end. We are adjourned, I should say. Good evening. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Kingman Common Council on Tuesday, September 17th, 2019 at 6 o'clock. Could we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Miles,
Here?
Vice Mayor Langenfelter,
Here.
Councilmember Mello Keener. Here. Councilmember Nelson,
Here.
Councilmember Scott Staley,
Present.
Councilmember Watkins. Here. Councilmember Waite.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. This evening, the invocation will be given by Jessica Cooper of Hope City Church. So would you please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance?
If we all could bow our heads, please. Father, we thank you that we can all come together as a city, as a community, Lord, and Father, that we can discuss and have this forum to be able to talk about the things about the city. Father, I pray over all the leaders that are represented here tonight. I pray that they would work well together, they would work in unity together, Father, to further what you're trying to do within our community, Lord. Father, I pray for favor. I pray for divine appointments for them to be able to meet, for doors to be open in areas that they never maybe even thought. But Father, I pray, Lord, that good things would come into our city. And so, Father, as they discuss things tonight, Father, I pray that everyone that is going to speak tonight will be heard and be able to articulate what they need to be able to articulate, Father, and that, Lord, that all the decisions that are made will be fair and just. So, Father, have your way in this meeting, and Father, I pray protection over everybody's here and for a peaceful meeting. And in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen. Councilor Watkins, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The council may go into executive session for legal counsel in accordance with ARS 38-431-03A3 to discuss any agenda item. The following items may be discussed, considered, and decisions made relating thereto. And the first order of business this evening is awards and recognition. And we have a few more than normal tonight. I think we'll return to a smaller number in the future, but there are many worthy things to note this evening, and I want to do that. And the first award and recognition of an award is for the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the fiscal year 2018 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. And this award is given actually to our City of Kingman Finance Department, and it is an award of financial reporting achievement presented by the Government Finance Officers Association, and it is presented to those whose government units, whose annual financial reports are judged to adhere to program standards and represents the highest award in government financial reporting. And I would ask Director Tina Moline to come forth and receive this award, and your whole team, and the whole finance team who won this award. Okay, and the second recognition actually is a proclamation for the Kingman Day of Caring. And many of you are familiar with this day because so many in our community volunteer with United Way. But here we go. Whereas River Cities United Way is once again hosting the Kingman Day of Caring annual citywide community cleanup, Saturday, September 21, 2019, at 6 a.m. with donuts. And whereas River Cities United Way, Kingman Clean City Commission, and CARE, a.k.a. Sandbox Beautification Committee, are encouraging families, local businesses, civic clubs, churches, and other groups to get involved in our community by registering volunteer teams to help. Whereas the Day of Caring is more than just a community service project, it is truly a win-win for everyone and every organization. And whereas benefits include giving back to community, team building for your organization, increasing community awareness, networking with others, and seeing firsthand the impact United Way has on the quality of life in Kingman, therefore be it resolved that I, Jen Miles, Mayor of the City of Kingman, do hereby proclaim Saturday, September 21, 2019, as Kingman Day of Caring, and encourage the community of Kingman to register a volunteer team. Is someone here from the United Way? Joni Millen? Oh, and come up, please come up. I could get used to this. Okay. Happy things. Well, this is a little more sobering. The Recovery Month Proclamation. And this is regarding our mental health services and recovery. And this proclamation is going to be accepted, I believe, by Andrea Hoffmeyer-Lusfield, who's the program director for Southwest Behavioral Health. There she is. Whereas recovery from mental and substance use disorders, including co-occurring disorders, is an essential part of health and one's overall wellness, and whereas treatment and recovery services for mental and substance use disorders and co-occurring disorders is effective, and people can and do recover in our area and around the nation. Whereas addressing and overcoming mental and substance use disorders and co-occurring disorders is essential to achieving healthy lifestyles, both physically and emotionally. Whereas to help more people with lived experience achieve and sustain recovery, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and Southwest Behavioral and Health Services invite all residents of Arizona to participate in National Recovery Month. Now therefore, I, Jen Miles, Mayor of the City of Kingman, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the laws of Arizona, do hereby proclaim the month of September as National Recovery Month in the City of Kingman and call upon the people of Kingman to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and ceremonies to support this year's Recovery Month theme. Join the Voices for Recovery, Together We Are Stronger, and to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Recovery Month observance. So we will now, I'd ask you to come up, Ms. Hoffmeyer-Lesfield. I'm going to learn it. And our last one is actually, I'm going to invite Mr. Vinny Gallegos, who is the Executive Director of the Lake Havasu City Metropolitan Planning Organization, to come up and receive this proclamation. And this is an important message about distracted driving. And we have a little video that we're going to show you that was produced by these people, and their great services. So here it is. Whereas the City of Kingman, Lake Havasu City, Bullhead City, Greater Mojave County, and Sparklight Advertising, led by the Lake Havasu Metropolitan Planning Organization, have partnered in a public service education campaign designed and intended to reduce fatalities and serious injuries on all public roads. And whereas the Arizona Department of Transportation, the Arizona Governor's Office of Highway Safety, the Arizona Department of Public Safety, Arizona Department of Health Services, Federal Highway Administration, and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration have adopted a strategic highway safety plan. And whereas the safety plan is a statewide coordinated effort to provide a comprehensive framework for reducing fatalities and serious injuries on all public roads, and whereas the primary goal of the safety plan is to reduce fatalities, the occurrence and severity of serious injuries on all public roadways in Arizona, and whereas the public service education campaign will concentrate on the top focus areas of the safety plan, including distracted driving, and whereas the public service education campaign will include digital media, targeted marketing, and local outreach to get the message out to City of Kingman constituents about the dangers of distracted driving. And whereas LHMPO, and Sparklight Advertising launched the public service education campaign in June 2019, and with the assistance of the City of Kingman, Kingman Police Department, Kingman Fire Department, and first responders throughout Mojave County. Therefore, therefore, I, Jen Miles, Mayor of the City of Kingman, Arizona, do hereby proclaim October 2019 as Distracted Driving Awareness Month in the City of Kingman and urge all citizens to participate in efforts to eliminate distracted driving, crashes, and fatalities. And I'm going to come down and give this, and then I'm going to turn the podium to you to describe this video that the short video that we're about to see.
Mayor and Council, thank you very much for this opportunity to come before you. More than anything, thank you for your partnership. You know, as the Mayor Miles read the proclamation, this is something that is familiar to all of us. We see distracted driving. Unfortunately, some of us have experienced it ourselves directly. We get distracted, and you'll see in a moment in the video that distraction is more than the texting and driving, which we hear so much about. It really is everything. It's controlling our radio, to talking to the people in the car, to pets. It's anything that takes our eyes off the road. So as the mayor introduced me, I'm from Lake Havasu Metropolitan Planning Organization, but this, the mission of this campaign is really, it's to our neighbors. So that is absolutely why we approached the mayor and the city manager and the police department, your fire department, and we said we want to help in getting the word out. And this word has to be a continuous reminder to all of us to not be distracted behind the wheel. And our hope in this campaign, we know we're not reinventing the wheel, but our hope is that we would feature personalities, environments, backgrounds that are familiar to our people. And the hope is, by seeing some familiar faces, which you'll see in just a second, that maybe that'll trigger somebody to say, hey, that's my mayor, that's my fire chief, that's my community, that's me. I need to put my phone down. I need to stop being so distracted. So I brought with me my lovely wife, Deb Gallegos, who is our director and part of our creative team. I brought with me Becky Banks, who is part of Sparklight, who's going to help us with the media outreach. So with your partnership, Becky's going to help in really getting the word out. So we put our dollars towards a very targeted media campaign, and with that, through Becky's expertise, we'll really be able to target the community to get the message out, to get the word out. So I want to thank the mayor, the fire chief, the police chief, all those in the community. Colleen, thank you very much. It really has taken your entire community to come together to put out this very important message. I have a video for you today. In a month, you'll see another video with your police chief and fire chief, so coming attractions, but you'll see a familiar face in today's video. So without further ado, we're going to debut it here.
That's my place. Who is that?
Don't make the news for driving distracted. Distracted driving includes anything that takes your attention from the road.
Did I look stern enough? They told me I could not smile.
Mayor Miles will tell you we had to work on her. She was being a little too happy, kind of giving that strong message. So we appreciate you allowing us that to really work with you.
Thank you.
But
It
again,
was
thank
a
you, Mayor.
delight.
Thank you, council, and really help us in getting the word out. We all share in this message. We want people safe on all of our roads. Thank you for the opportunity today.
Thank you so much. This is my first movie production. You want on our web, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. We'll move on now to call to the public. Comments from the public. Those wishing to address the council should fill out request forms in advance. Action taken as a result of public comments will be limited to directing staff to study the matter or rescheduling the matter for consideration and decision at a later time. Comments from the public will be restricted to items not on the agenda, with the exception of those on the consent agenda. There will be no comments allowed that advertise for a particular person or group. Comments should be limited to no longer than 3 minutes. And the first person to sign up was Diane Ferrigo from, regarding the development of Gemstone Street.
We're a little group here. We're neighbors, and so I'm going to speak, but everybody came with me. So good evening, Mayor and Council, and what we are is, I didn't know what to put there, but we are residents of Rising Sun and Gemstone in the Rancho Santa Fe subdivision. So thank you for hearing us, and a special thank you to Councilwoman Sue Ann for her assistance and advice on coming tonight. Back in 1998, or thereabouts, when our subdivision was created, Rancho Santa Fe, the developer would have disclosed to the prospective buyers of Rising Sun that the gemstone lots behind Rising Sun were going to be extremely elevated, but the development never filled in, and for the last approximate 20 years, those lots have been vacant. They have always been higher than our lots on Rising Sun, and higher than the street that was graded long ago that runs in front of them, which is gemstone. We thought that even with homes being built there eventually, because we knew that would happen, there would still be a nice view and we would still be able to see around the homes. Well, that's what we thought until last week and this week. Those lots have continued to grow to the point where they are 14 feet high from the original elevation and approximately 4 to 5 feet taller than our block wall, completely obstructing the view of some of us. They now tower way above our property. We will be in a fishbowl with those neighbors looking directly down into our yards and homes. And it's possible they may put a block wall up there as well. So our beautiful panoramic views, like for mine, from my picture window, has been reduced to a sliver of dirt. I mean, a big mound of dirt, but the very sliver of sky above it. That's it. I don't have anything beyond that. And the same with several of my neighbors. The new homeowners, like I said, could build a block wall on top of their lot, reducing our views even further to nothing but dirt and a concrete wall or block wall. For this to happen in such a beautiful and fine subdivision such as ours, that where we've invested quite a bit of money to live there, is really unacceptable. In addition to the views, the city and the developer are aware of our concerns regarding drainage. Engel Homes has informed us that retention areas are being graded into the rear of these new lots, but it will be up to those homeowners only to maintain that. There is no guarantee of that. They are also putting in strategic retention walls. At this time, they're only planning to put them behind 3 of the lots. One of them is mine. But we feel that they should run the full distance. Several of us have spoken with the representative of Engel Homes, and they have laid out their proposed plan to alleviate this worry. But once everything is in place, there will not be any maintenance by the developer or the city to ensure that that drainage plan will continue to prevent flooding or water damage, possibly undermining our block walls, even worse, breaking through during a hard rain, which did happen to the neighbor on the east of me at one point. Nearly everyone on our street purchased their homes as a resale long after the development was originally planned. None of us ever would have thought that the lots behind us would be elevated to that extreme. Had we all been there at that time, we probably would have not purchased it. And I will hurry, may I finish? I just have a short.
30 more seconds.
I'm trying to speak
30
for all
more
of us,
seconds.
all of their speaking points. As voters, citizens, and taxpayers, we feel the city has let us down in representing us, and our hometown builder, Engel Homes, has failed to be a good neighbor. At this point, the city of Kingman and Engel Homes is telling us nothing can be done now without great cost. These entities at least could have sent out a mailer or called a meeting with us, the existing homeowners that are affected, allowing us to vocalize our concerns before they did all this. Then a different solution could have been engineered. Adding insult to injury, I was told by several people when I would approach them that I didn't care for the situation, and they said I could sell and move. And I thought that was kind of rude. I love my home and my neighbors love theirs, and we are all invested in customized our homes just the way we want them. What is being done behind us without proper notice nearly 20 years after the original development is unjust. Not only is it a displeasure to us to have this ugly view, but it will most likely be detrimental to our resale values. Thank you for allowing me and my group this time, and I invite any of you to come by and take a look.
Thank you. And I appreciate the comments, and I think many of us have gone by to take that look. And Manager Foggin, I know that this is an issue that we've discussed regarding the drainage, and that that discussion can continue with these neighbors. I think it's really
Absolutely.
important from the city perspective on the things that we can control. Our engineering permits for the drainage are critical.
Yep.
But beyond that, I know that there's only a limited amount that the city controls, but there is the representative of the developer is here this evening. I know he's available for further discussion after.
May I say one more
Council.
thing? Our thought was that.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, yeah,
Okay, thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
That's fine.
But thank you for your comments. Okay. Okay. This is actually, yeah, that's 5A. That's a different one. The next speaker is William McCabe.
Ledge not very tall. Good evening, council. I'm here again. Tonight I'd like to bring forth a card I picked up off the city clerk's desk there. It's about your city council. The mayor and the city council are elected to represent the interests of the community. Together, they set politics and adopt local laws to guide services offered to the community. They also connect with the citizens on various matters to help ensure our community needs are being met effectively. The city of Kingman does not utilize the district system, meaning that the mayor and all the councils are elected at large. It says, when should I contact the mayor or the city council? When you want to see action taken on a subject of citywide concern, to voice your opinion on something going on within the city. When you have an issue with a policy developed by the city council, to give feedback on subjects happening in the city. When you want to volunteer or get involved with the city. I've been coming here since the second meeting of May on the ADA codes, American with Disability Act, and the IBC codes that they're not enforced on the existing building. And I'm following this, I'm here every council for 3 minutes trying to get something to happen, to change. I've read the code where the existing buildings or existing businesses have to comply with their accessibility. That means what they have in place, they're supposed to maintain. I filed 10 complaints with the city in June. I went to the city clerks, they told me that they were sent to the building department. I went over there, they can't find any of them. How did 10 complaints disappear off the website? I haven't gotten answers. They were gonna get back with me. It's been 2 weeks and they haven't gotten back. I've contacted the Department of Justice because I feel that the people of the community deserve the minimum. And the ADA and the building codes are minimum, and they should be enforced. I don't know what more we can do, and I'm gonna continue. Eventually, the Department of Justice will show up and clarify, what the city has to do. I don't know if you checked on that designated employee, but thank you.
Mr. Cooper, since Manager Foggin isn't here, I'm going to defer this subject and ask that you confer with him and make sure that we are in compliance with the laws and
We are addressing those concerns.
you are addressing.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you. I do think I know that we take it seriously, and I thank you, Mr. McCabe.
Thank you for your time and have a good night.
Certainly, you too. Okay, call to the public. Is it, I'm going to say, well, it's Mr. and Ms. Waters. Mr. Waters. Gary Waters? Gary Waters.
Hello, Gary Waters, 309 North 7th Street. I'd just like to present an idea for the upcoming Rancho Santa Fe Exchange, just in terms of a name. I suggest that we don't go with Rancho Santa Fe. It's awfully generic. We could use something that actually points to Kingman's history, maybe something a little more colorful. Like, for instance, Charles Lindbergh Boulevard. We plan to punch that road over into the airport. that immediately conveys, you know, the age of aviation and goggles and things like that. So that might be a little more, might make people think more about Kingman when the road passing through. And the fact that Charles Lindbergh instituted Port Kingman back in the 30s, you know, it's a good tie to our history. Another thing, the other interchange, Kingman Crossing, that just seems just so vanilla. Why not honor somebody that's been a great figure in our history, such as Grace Neal? You know, you go to college, you see her name everywhere. She's done all sorts of things for our stewarding our history in this town. If you want something a little more loud, you could probably look at Clark Gable, you know, who got married here. You can name a road after him too. Just if we could try something like that, people will drive through Kingman and maybe punch something in the Google and, you know, think about it a little bit. Maybe even come here and live. So anyway, thanks for hearing me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, Joni Millen.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. I'm here today, Joni Millen, resident of Kingman, here today supporting or working for the Kingman Downtown Merchants Association. So you gave us a proclamation this evening for the Day of Caring, so we appreciate that very much. We also just wanted to let you know that we're looking at extending this to a second time this year, possibly in April. So September, Day of Caring now is in its 5th year. So we're looking at expanding this that twice a year. The first time it was chosen because we wanted to clean up for the Oktoberfest and the Andy Devine Days and so on and so forth. So April will then flip it around and we'll start cleaning up for Harley Days and forgot what the other one is. But anyway, so it's a good time for us to be able to do it and keep our city clean. And it's very well followed, so we appreciate that. The other two things is we're spinning up for our Veterans Day Parade. Yay. It will be on November 9th. The parade begins at 10 o'clock a.m. We do have spots for each of you. If you wish to be in there, let us know, and we'll get you done. It supports and honors all of our veterans in Kingman, Arizona. However, our theme this year is the United States Navy. Heads up, that's on November 9th. So let's see a big crowd out there this year. And then we're gearing up also for our Christmas Parade of Lights. This year, our Christmas parade falls on Pearl Harbor Day. So we have made the theme a very merry Stars and Stripes Parade of Lights. So we're hoping that that throws a nice fun spin to the whole thing. So that is Saturday evening, December 7th. It will start at 7 p.m. Again, we have positions for each of you. If you want to be in the parade, just kind of let us know. So everybody come on down, go to Kingman Downtown Merchants Association.com. You'll be able to get signed in to all the parades, and let's do some fun stuff. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, and I think the last person signed up for call to the public is Donna Goshen? Or is it Cochran?
Name is Donna Gay. My understanding is, and I have a concern about one of our councilmen. My understanding is that Travis Lingenfelder has provides Rickety Cricket with his product, Dr. C, and he also voted last council meeting for the favor of Rickety Cricket Restaurant. How is that not a conflict of interest? And my other question is, why didn't he recuse himself? That's it. It's my questions that needs to be addressed.
Thank you. Vice Mayor, there's been an allegation made, and I think in this case, it is okay for you to respond to allegations.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
In the call to the public, if there's a criticism directed towards a council person, at the conclusion of the call to the public, council person can respond to that. Obviously, we like to try and keep it as brief as possible and no discussion.
No
Yeah,
discussion.
I appreciate it, and I would like to take the opportunity to clear the air on that. So yes, I own a vitamin company. It's called The Right C, Dr. C, The Right C. We sell all over the country. And I actually donate a lot of product to a lot of different vendors in town for their different causes. 2 years ago, the Rickety Cricket, they did reach out to me. I donated some product to them because they were doing some sort of a beer experiment. They wanted to do a vitamin C infused beer. It was like in 2017, so I donated some product to them. Not 1 cent has ever changed hands. Since that time, he's never called me to ask for more product. And he's a local guy. I support a lot of local causes. We also do the Right Crucible in partnership with the Beale Street Theater. The Right Sea partners with the theater, and we run this family obstacle course every year. All the proceeds are donated to the Beale Street Theater renovation efforts. I am not, and I have never been, a vendor of the Rickety Cricket or any other business downtown. I'm not a fool. I, as an elected official, know when I'm supposed to recuse myself from a financial interest, and there was no financial interest there at all. I've also been called his best friend and all sorts of things. I'm not sure why everybody's coming after just me, but I want every downtown business owner to win, to succeed, to rise, and I'm going to continue to support them. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next item of business is the consent agenda. All matters listed here are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and be considered separately. Do any of the council members want to remove any of the consent agenda items?
I'd like to remove item D for more information.
Okay. Item D, any other items? Then I would entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda or approve the consent agenda with the exception of item D.
D.
D as in dog. Yeah, D.
Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't hear.
Madam Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item D.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item D. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Item D, proposed resolution number 5244 approving the final subdivision plat and improvement plans for Sycamore Village, Tract 1955A. A request from MPAC Enterprises, LLC, property owner and subdivider, and Mojave Engineering Associates, Inc., project engineer, for the approval of a final subdivision plat and improvement plans for Sycamore Village, Tract 1955A. The property owner and engineer are now requesting that the subdivision be split into 2 phases and have requested that the final plat and improvement plans for the first phase, known as Sycamore Village, Tract 1955A, be approved. Staff recommends approval of resolution number 5244. Councilor Scott Staley.
Yes, we have some neighbors here tonight that I think we're looking to get some more information about what exactly the developer is asking the city to do. So I wondered if staff could just give a brief overview of this item.
Yes, good evening. Sycamore Village was a single subdivision that was approved in 2006. Mixture of patio homes as well as site-built single-family homes. The developer is now proposing to split that into 2 sections, 2 phases essentially. So the first phase would be kind of on the eastern side of the property along Fairfax. This would be mostly patio home type development. And then the second phase, excuse me, would be to the west, which would border kind of toward Hodges Avenue. I'm sorry I don't have a map to show you, but that's basically what the intended phasing plan is at this point.
So they're going to start with the patio homes, and those are duplexes, or what is a patio home?
So they're really attached homes with a common wall on one side and a separation or a setback on the other side. So you have 1 unit per lot, they're attached on one side. So they'll appear as townhomes or patio homes.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve item D, resolution number 5244.
There's a motion to approve resolution 5244. Is there a second? Motion and a second to approve proposed resolution 5244, approving the final subdivision plat and improvement plans for Sycamore Village, Tract 1955A. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Manager Foggin, it seems like it's getting quieter out there, but I was going to ask that that be, oh, you just did that? Thank you, because,
C took care of this.
thank you. Okay, yes, yeah, we will keep
If it heats up again, we will be on it.
Thank you. Okay, we're at old business. Tonight, the old business is the amended Kingman Crossing Agreement. Staff requests that council adopt the notice of intent to enter into a development agreement with the Kingman Regional Medical Center / KX Ventures. Final approval of the development agreement will be on the October 1st, 2019 business meeting agenda. Staff recommends approval.
And I'll jump in on this. First, I want to say where it says
Mr. Cooper.
amended development agreement, it doesn't, it's amended as being
It's
put on the
amended.
agenda. I
The
just want to make
agenda
sure
is amended.
the agenda was amended. And this is basically that first step in the process of moving forward with the development agreement. Statutorily, we need to start presenting some of this information to the council and to the public, and that's what this is tonight, is it's that notice of intent to proceed. It's informing the public that we are going to be taking the next step, which will be at the next council meeting. Attached to this notice of intent, as well as that economic review that was required for a third party to review that this proposal is something that would be able to move forward. And again, tonight you're not making any decisions, you're just approving this notice of intent. We'll be doing a bigger decision at the next meeting.
And am I to understand that when it does come forth on the October 1st agenda, that there will be an attachment that includes a proposed development agreement?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay, so that's when the public will actually have a chance to review it.
Yes, ma'am.
So tonight, we are just going forth with the notice of intent, and I would ask if there's any discussion or further discussion or questions about this. If not, I would entertain a motion to adopt the notice of intent to enter into a development agreement with KRMC / KX Ventures.
Motion to approve?
Do I have a second?
I second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve, to adopt the notice of intent to enter into a development agreement with KRMC / KX Ventures. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. New business, renaming of Wallach Ranch Dog Park. There is a new dog park at Wallach Ranch Park that will be opening soon. We were contacted by Alana Smart, who would like to recommend the dog park at Wallach Ranch Park be named after a dog named Willow, a dog that was rescued from the desert that is on Willow Road. At the August 28th meeting of the Park, Aquatic, Recreation and Golf Commission meeting, a motion was made to rename the Wallach Ranch Dog Park to Willow's Dog Park. The motion passed by a vote of 5-0. Staff recommends keeping the name of the dog park, Wallach Ranch Dog Park, and coming back to council with guidelines in naming facilities, including parks. Good evening, Mr. Mearsman.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Wallach Ranch Dog Park is located at 2301 Coronado Avenue between Mojave Wash and the Legacy Edition of Wallach Ranch. And Elena Smart talked to us about it, and at this time, the city has no guidelines for naming and renaming facilities, including parks, streets, park amenities, putting a monument in the park. There's no guidelines for that. And looking at other cities' best practices, a lot of cities have guidelines for it. Some cities have ordinances about naming and renaming facilities, including streets, parks. And in talking with our legal counsel, they don't feel like we need a ordinance per se, but we should develop guidelines for it. So, and staff's concern about this is that it's a precedent-setting event that should be done after guidelines have been developed. And so that's basically what the staff's concern is. And I'll be turning this over to Elena. She's got a PowerPoint presentation to share with you. I'd be happy to answer any questions and before or after, if you want to hear her first.
Well, no, I'd like to first ask council if they have any questions for you before. I have her signed up as a speaker too. So does anybody want to ask Mr. Mearsman any questions?
You know, when I saw this, I really feel like this is exactly why we have commissions. And I think that this should be turned back over to the commission to make the guidelines, to put those together. I think that's a perfect thing for them to do. I don't necessarily think that this is within the council's priorities to spend time on, dog park naming. And in this case, our commission already approved the rename 5-0. I think we should support them, then let them do the guidelines and move forward so that the council's not spending a lot of time on something that it's perfect for our commission. So that was the only thing I had.
Any other comments? Vice Mayor.
Madam Mayor, I would say, I would also support the commission. I mean, these people are volunteering their time and their energy and their attention, and it's not the commission's fault that they beat you to the punch. They were doing what they were there to do. So I would, if they want to name it this, I would personally support that, and then just come back with your policy before you name anything else. It seems pretty common sense.
Any other comments? I would just echo your comments because I think that the commission did their due diligence. They were unanimous, and I think the guidelines could be created, but that does, if this is really a worthy name, and I think it is, personally, but I would support the commission. Anyway, go ahead.
Another party has come to me, and Mike has helped me with another park issue and naming a park or doing something. And I kind of agree with staff that we need to set a guidelines. We don't want to set a precedence with this one dog park name. I don't know, I kind of feel that we should follow our staff's.
Okay.
We have had other requests about renaming parks, and that we're going to have to address this again, obviously. So the commission's recommendation was to develop guidelines and come back to you with the guidelines too. So that is part of our plan to do that. So, and we're in the process of developing those. So,
but they also 5-0
they
wanted
did.
to rename this and do the
I'm
guidelines.
not denying that. So,
Yeah.
and if there is a positive to it, the name Willow is close to the street.
I was going to say, when I spoke with some people today about it, they said, well, I thought it was that makes sense, it's on Willow. And I said, yeah, it's on Willow, and there's also an organization that it would honor, and they do good work, and Willow is a symbol of them. So they thought it was on Willow.
Staff just feels that it's worthy to think about because it's a precedent-setting event, and before we get our guidelines, we hope we don't get a whole bunch of other people want to name other dog parks or something like that. So it's just a concern, obviously.
Yeah. Yes, Counselor.
Thank you.
My question is, yes, the commission voted 5-0. We've sat up here and voted 7-0 against a 6-0 commission on at least 3 different occasions I can roll off right now. So we have an opportunity here to say no to it. And honestly, I think they need to get some guidelines in place.
Okay, any other discussion?
Mayor, thank you. First, as always, we thank all those who serve on the different commissions. We appreciate all the time and labor that they put into their jobs. But I think, as Mike has mentioned, I think we need to hold off on voting for a name on this certain park until we develop some guidelines to, name all the parks. Because we do get, I'm sure, some frivolous requests also for naming some of these parks. And so I think we need to take it a little more seriously.
Madam Mayor?
Any other comments?
Just one other thing. With all due respect to Willow, this doesn't seem like a really pressing issue. And so by having this on the agenda, it just puts council in a really kind of awkward spot. Why was this brought to council and we're asked this question? Why wasn't it just held by staff until you get your policy and that came to council first? Well, I mean, why is this even on our agenda without, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
It makes more sense to hold that because it's not pressing.
Right.
To bring your naming thing to us, have us decide on that, and then it's just resolved.
So as has been mentioned, I've probably received in the last 2 months at least 4, 5 requests for different naming of facilities. With that many, it seemed like an important conversation for us to have with the council to kind of get a feel for what the direction policy-wise you would like to do. Because ultimately, these names will represent the community, whether it's the Route 66 becomes Andy Devine, the baseball fields across the way become another name. Willow Park, Dog Park. These are things that, although we look at this one in particular is kind of it's a dog park, right? And who cares what the name is? But if we continue this practice, we've got to have guidelines, and I agree with what's been said. The guidelines should be developed by the commission. This is what they're asked to do. My preference would have been for them to say, oh wait, what's the guidelines for naming parks before making a decision on this one? That would have been my preference. It's not what they did. So we find ourselves caught between a need for a policy and a decision that's being made for this park and could be many other facilities. It has relevance to the council, at least it seems like it has relevance to the council.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but as our city manager, you review all the agendas before they go public, and if you needed clarification from council, it just seems logical that you would have put an item on the agenda seeking clarification from council rather than putting an actual dog park on the agenda. It just puts us in a weird spot, you know what I mean? That's all
Well,
I'm saying.
and I guess we've been in a weird spot, so.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Mearsman. We're now going to listen to Ms. Alana Smart, who is going to talk to us about the dog park, renaming it. Maybe.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Alana. I'm one of the Willow rescuers. I'm sure you all know the story of Willow. She lived in the desert area for about 5 to 7 years. And there was many people that used to travel along the wash trying to capture her and bring her into safety. I branched out and I got with a group of us that actually went into the desert. It took us 3 months to catch this beautiful dog. And well worth the catch. Currently, she lives with foster parents here in town, which I truly believe are failed fosters. I think she's going to be a permanent home there. Mm-hmm. And if you could meet this dog, you would fall in love with her. I know you're all animal lovers, so I'm hoping that this park will be renamed Willow's Dog Park. She's so deserving of it. She's a great dog. I know in her heart that she would appreciate it as much as us volunteers did. We worked very hard to catch her, and it was well worth it. Like I said, if you could meet this dog, you'd be pretty impressed with her. I just want to show you a very quick presentation that we've got. Actually, there we go. The day that Willow went into the trap that we actually set out on the wash for her. This was part of the monitoring that we did. You can see her food there. And the camera, we had her on camera. And this is the dog park that you all built, which we're truly grateful for. And this is pictures of Willow in the desert. She was checking out her trap to safety. The pictures at the bottom are of Willow after her trapping days. You can see she's very happy and very safe. This was Willow after her first bath, and she thought it felt pretty good after living in the desert for 5 to 7 years. She really needed a bath. She was a good dog to give her a bath to. And you can see how much better she was feeling after being trapped. We know she went through some rough times out there. We know she was maybe abused at some point, intentionally or unintentional. I don't really know. But this current year, we considered it her first birthday because it was a year since we trapped her. So she had, maybe 40 or 50 people from the city come to her first birthday party. You can see her little cake that she got. She actually sampled that. And there's quite a little write-up here, so I don't know if you have time to read through that or if you want to read through it at a later date. But it's just pretty much going through, what we went through to craft her. So that's all that we ask of you. If you could name it Willow Dog Park. And my volunteers, Robin in the back there, she's one of them. We would be eternally grateful and appreciative, and we know Willow would also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or discussion about this issue? Yes, Counselor.
Well, first I want to apologize. I said the word frivolous, and that was the wrong word to say, because we all are sensitive about certain things and passionate about certain things, and I agree with that. I would imagine, and thanks for the presentation about Willow. I'm sure Willow was named Willow because of Willow Street. So, for example, like this park here, because of all the new people moving into the town and geographically, like Willow Street Dog Park would be more appropriate. It still honors Willow, but do you see what I'm saying? So, but I think, once again, we need to turn this back to the commission for some guidelines and let them bring us some guidelines on how we should name these different parks.
Could we make a motion on this?
I would like to discuss just a moment. I don't know how Wallach Ranch Dog Park, or park, I guess because it was close to Wallach Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
And where did Wallach Ranch come from? The developer, probably. And Lewis Kingman. I don't know these names exist because of various people naming them, is all I can figure. I just want to say that when I was speaking to some people today, and yes, they're friends, but they had no knowledge of this, and they just said, well, we already call that Willow Park, and they already refer to it as Willow Park because it's on Willow. And so I don't think it's a big stretch to think that this is an unusual name. It just happens to coincide with something that is larger than a dog. Now, Willow is a dog that is obviously very symbolic of the people, all these people that are involved in animal rescue and in that whole movement, which is large. So I think those are factors that take it so far beyond frivolous. It's really an honor to think about naming it, and not just for the dog, but for the people that work so hard for so long to do these things and to raise our consciousness. So, I'm still with the commission, but I understand that there are 7 of us. So I would, if the council feels like it needs to go back to the commission or whatever you feel, I think it's time to entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, could I ask one more question?
Yes.
Could we have the good lady come back up to the podium?
Alana Smart.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. I just want to know, what are your feelings if council, hearing what we've heard tonight, the discussion, the dialogue, what are your thoughts with this issue going back to the commission? And you never know. I mean, we don't know what those guidelines are going to look like. Maybe even though it would be delayed,
Right.
maybe it would still be named. It'd go through this guideline process and it would still get named Willows Park. I don't know. I mean, nobody can tell that. But if you were to commit to still be a part of that process, right? Because hopefully the commission would involve the public as well. naming parks and things like that are kind of a big deal community-wise. So you would hope that there'd be some public involvement in that process.
I would do anything I could to help.
Would you
I mean,
be?
I'd like it to be renamed right now,
I know.
but if it's not going to happen right now, fine. So I will be a part of whatever you want me to be. And
Sure.
I'll do it all for the
Yeah.
dog. She's in my home.
I guess my follow-up question to that, to Mr. Foggin, is the policy that you envisioned for renaming parks and whatnot. Is there a possibility that this park could still be named Willows Park in the future? Just, it would go through some sort of a process that would formalize that?
Yeah, so we're just looking at best practices across cities on how they handle this, because it ultimately does define. I can't see a reason why it couldn't or wouldn't be
Sure.
named Willow Park or
So-
Willow Dog Park.
So from a negotiating standpoint, if that were to happen, then everybody wins, right? You get your policy, you get your dog's park name, and everybody's happy. Okay. Thank you.
Counselor Scott Staley?
I'd like to make a motion that we do move forward to rename this dog park Willows Dog Park. One thing that hasn't been mentioned, this is a cattle dog. It's an important part of our ranching history here in Kingman, and I don't see any problem with setting precedents on naming dog parks. So I'd like to make a motion that we move forward, rename this Willows Dog Park, as well as turn over to the commission the work that needs to be done on creating the guideline moving forward.
I have a motion to rename the dog park Willows Dog Park. Is there a second? I will second it. So, is there any further discussion? I guess I will second the motion to rename it and also to send the expectation of guidelines back to the commission.
Madam Mayor, may I ask
Yes.
is it permissible to ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
Is that work, that task, is that time-centered? Because just referring it back without a time frame, would they bring back something in 30 days or 60 days or
Well,
90 days?
the next time they meet, we will have for them a draft. How long it takes them to work through that draft could be a number of months, because the Parks Commission is quarterly. And so the next time they meet is not even until November, so.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. I would ask that all in favor for renaming the dog park Willows Dog Park and for sending the commission a request to bring forth guidelines, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
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 Did you, I'm not sure what the vote was. Did you get the vote?
I believe it was 4, 2, 3, 4. Do you want me to do a roll call?
Please do a roll call.
Mayor Miles?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lingenfelter?
Aye.
Councilmember Mello Keener?
Nay.
Councilmember Nelson?
Nay.
Councilmember Scott Staley?
Aye.
Councilmember Watkins?
Nay.
Councilmember Waite?
Aye.
The vote is 4-3 aye. The ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, the next item of business is the Parklet Pedlet Pilot Program. The Planning and Economic Development Department is introducing a Parklet Pedlet program. Say that 3 times, Parklet Pedlet Program.
Maybe we should call it something else.
Yeah.
All right. Mayor, members of the council, a couple of months ago, we introduced a program at the work session on parklets and pedlets. And what I'm going to be doing this evening is doing the culmination of that program. So what you'll be seeing in front of you this evening are the actual guidelines and stuff that will actually be the rulings that will make the program go forward. So again, I want to tip the hat to Sylvia, my partner on this one. She helped me again. We researched as we did on the facade a number of what's good practices in other communities. Now, the one thing I'd like you to keep in mind as we go through this, a lot of communities that do these things are heavily snow communities, okay? So we're a little bit different there. So we're going to have to probably work through this first year as opposed to when would it have to come out, or what if we have a snowstorm? So we're going to be a little bit different because we're that moderate climate. Most of these, they come out in November and then they go back in towards the springtime so that they don't have that obstacle. But again, I think one of the things when we look long-term, as you know as council, we're going to be implementing a program over the next several years on a master plan for Beale Street. And so it's good now that we look at these pedlets and parklets because they are, in essence, temporary. So that could certainly change in the future. So I just wanted to update you on that real quick and then just move forward. Okay. The parklet and pedlet application process, and what we did is we took a look at communities and again looking at best practices, and we set up, as you can see here, a number of steps. Complete the application. Step 2, there's a number of forms that come with this, and one of the things that I wanted to make very clear up front, I did send a copy over to engineering, and so I wanted to make sure that Greg knew what we were doing, but we will, as the department in economic development and planning and zoning, be the lead department here. So we're, when we need something or we work it out with a client, we will be walking over to engineering. We will also be working with public works, so that we will be leading the charge, so to speak. So it doesn't just get somebody walking in off the street saying, "Well, I'm an application for this," and having to bring that surprise onto engineering. So, as you can see, there are a number of things. A signed neighborhood consent form. This was important. We saw in other communities where the people around them understood what happened. There's an indemnification statement. There's a certificate of liability insurance. Written documentation on the private contractor and approving the parklet design guides. A site plan for the parklet. Photos of the proposed location. And we looked at, and maybe this is the area we could have some flexibility, a $500 fee. There's going to be a lot of work on our part as far as the city, working with the departments, continual checks on, to make sure that it's in place, right, that all the right guidelines are met. For example, just the water flow on that particular street, are they right with the curb? Is the ADA compliance there? So we looked at other communities, and most of them used a fee of somewhere between $250, $500, and some as much as $1,000 to implement this, because it is to the benefit of the customer. Step 3, turn in all the required documents to the Planning and Economic Development Department. Step 4, city staff will review the parklets and the applications. If the application is complete and meets the parklet and pedlet criteria outlined in this packet, staff will approve the application. Step 5, if a parklet application is approved, the parklet is required to pay the $500 fee to obtain the permit. The applicant is then permitted to install the parklet or pedlet outside their establishment. Once the structure is in place, the city staff will inspect the parklet, pedlet, and make sure that all the guidelines, safety, accessibility codes have been met. Failure to keep the parklet and pedlet compliant could result in termination of the permit. So keep the guidelines pretty strict. If the application is deemed ineligible or denied, the applicant may apply for the parklet program again the following year. Okay, this is just the application form, so I won't go through it in detail, but again, this is what would be submitted and the information that would be required. Here's one of the most important things, and that is the neighborhood consent form. Now remember, if in doing a parklet or a pedlet, you're going to be taking up parking spaces in front of your facility. Now that parklet or pedlet cannot exceed the width of your building or that faces the street there. But it will affect your neighbors because there'll be some parking issues that may very well come about. So part of the things that we saw in other communities was the use of a neighborhood consent form. In many ways, kind of like what we do in zoning, how does it affect the surrounding businesses? Indemnification statement, because we're going to be putting this in a public facility, is that we would also have an indemnification thing for the city. purpose of the rules and regulations. Purpose, to describe the procedures to be followed by the city departments when parklets and pedlets in the city right-of-way are applied for. Organizations and person affected. This policy applies to all City of Kingman departments, boards, commissions, and general public policies. It is the city's policy to follow the uniform procedure and with the state law and the city ordinances when granting privileges for these parklets or pedlets. Description is an extension of the curb that provides room for fixed and movable seating, planning, and dining. The responsibility of the Planning and Economic Development Department shall be responsible for accepting the applications for the parklets or pedlets and determine if all criteria for granting the permit is set forth have been met. Risk management shall determine if the insurance requirements have been met, and upon determination all the requirements below have been met, and the parklet and pedlet permit shall be issued. Guidelines. They're permitted for only, and we really looked hard at this to say, would it apply to any other type of business? Every single city that we looked at is permitting only for food and drink establishments. It allows for that extension, creates that uniqueness of outdoor dining. Required to be in place for relevant license for food and beverage services. Cannot extend beyond the width of the applicant's tenant's footage. Cannot extend into the street more than 7 feet 6 inches. And this was pretty much uniform in all the communities that we looked at. No advertising, logos, advertising, or any branding is prohibited, and a small and obtrusive plaque recognizing a project sponsor may be used at our determination as the city. The term of the use is subject to the annual renew of a $100 fee, and that is to just, that means they got some skin in the game, and that they're going to profit by this. Designed for easy removal. That's probably the most important thing. So, because the parklet and pedlets may sit on top of crucial infrastructure, utilities such as gas lines, sewer, water mains, they need to be designed for easy removal in the case of them. Okay. Again, we really won't know quite what's in the street there. Outdoor food and drink service is allowed during the business and applicants' normal operating hours. So. Okay. Other guidelines include the parklet pedlets location. The design certainly is going to be important. Accessibility pedlets, they must comply with the Americans with Disability Act, ADA. Safety, and certainly, the oversight or the responsibility of the client. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. We tried to really simplify this to make sure it wasn't too complicated, but that, and our recommendation would be to council that, how about this year we take a look at no more than 2. Let's try maybe a pedlet or a parklet, so that we can really kind of get our teeth into it and see how it's really going to work for us. That would be our suggestion. If more apply, I guess that certainly happens. So.
Mr. Kellogg, so tonight are you asking the council to approve moving forward with the parklet pedlet program with a limit of 2 for the following year?
2 would be preference, but I'll certainly go if council feels more than, flexible that way. But we don't know what the reaction is going to be yet until we put this out there.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Yes, Councilwoman.
Garrett, could we actually bump that to 3, since we know of 3 businesses downtown that are probably immediately going to apply for this? Is it feasible that we could do that?
Well, I think so. We were just trying to keep it.
I understand completely, so we say this amount, period.
I almost guess what 3 is.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking of. It makes sense. Everybody in the room is probably thinking of the same 3 for downtown.
I think the reality will certainly come in for any of the businesses that, number one, their responsibility falls on.
Absolutely, absolutely.
They'll be in an excellent profit-making position, and making sure that we meet all the challenges of the curbs and stuff like that. If we were 5 years down the road and we had the master plan done and all the curbs were at the right size, storm drains and everything, probably would be a little bit easier undertaking.
So the next question, thank you, is can you work with those 3? Can those 3 work with you?
I don't see.
Okay, fantastic, thank you.
I would assume you can work with anyone who's submitting an application. You'll work with them to make this happen if it meets the criteria.
If they meet the criteria.
Okay, thank you.
Food establishment.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, I would
Vice
have
Mayor.
a few questions if I could. I think one of the main reasons that I see that this program was introduced and why we're moving forward is, while it's true that we are going forward with a downtown streetscape plan, that'll be done in maybe a year and a half, 2 years. But is there a capital improvement funding source to build anything out of that plan right now? I don't know if there's anything
Yeah,
as
no,
far as a
it's just,
capital source.
just,
right?
just the plan right now.
So that's a huge part.
Yep.
You can design something, but you got to designate a funding source to actually build it, and that's gone away. So we didn't want to lose any momentum downtown. And there is a need for more seating, for visual improvements, things like that. So what I did is I took what you published in the agenda online, and I went out and I reached out to some of the business owners downtown to ask if they had any questions, if they saw anything that they wanted to maybe tweak. And I did get some feedback, and I'd like to share that with you guys if I could. And I'll just go through it. So the first thing that many of them, on 3 blocks, I got comments from businesses on 3 blocks downtown. They mentioned the fee. And when doing research, the $500 fee, as I understand these things, they are primarily privately funded. So, you're looking at a few $1,000s to construct one of these things. And they just thought the $500 fee, if that could be maybe bumped down. They saw the $500 fee as kind of a barrier to entry.
Yeah.
And so maybe you could make that
As
$50
Gary,
to $100.
as Gary indicated, that's one place in the program
That's one area of relief that they would appreciate to see.
Yep.
And then also I have a question about the application being deemed ineligible or denied, and then they have to wait another year. This is new to everybody. This is new to us. This is new to the business owners downtown. If it's denied for I'll use the word stupid, sorry, but if it's denied for some stupid reason, why do they have to? Can't they just go back and correct whatever that prevented it, and maybe try again, and maybe after 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, try again if it's something that can be tweaked?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're just presenting what we found
Sure.
in other locations. And tweaks to Kingman are completely appropriate.
Good. And then on the neighborhood consent form, they had some concerns. They wanted to know if was it going to be like a radius? Was it going to be just their neighbors immediately on both sides, and maybe their neighbor across the street? And one of them had an issue with, it says this on this neighborhood consent form, this may increase the level of outdoor noise in the area. They said, that sounds, could we change the name or the word noise to activity or something more proactive? I don't know. It's a small thing, but I told them I'd mention it. Somebody had a question about the insurance requirements and making sure that those weren't prohibitive.
They will be reasonable.
And then I also, I talked to a couple of eventually they're going to be like big draws downtown. Sure. It's got a nice ring to it. So under the Parkland Peddler guidelines under general, it says permitted only for food and drink establishments. And I would agree that I think that's a good place to start. But the Kingman Center for the Arts, the Beale Street Theater, they also deserve equal consideration. I think that those are some good places. If the gallery has some sort of an exhibition or something, that would be, they don't serve any food or drink, but it'd be a good place to kind of congregate or to have the public congregate. So I would ask that it not just be strictly food and drink, but it would be open to other businesses, and if it makes sense, then we would work with them.
I just think one of the things, keep in mind, Councilman, we're going to be giving up parking spaces every time we do this. That's
Sure.
That's probably the real balancing point, so.
I've done a little research on that, and what I've found, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you take one parking space, and one parking space is used by an average of 1 or 2 people for an average of one hour. And then if you do a parklet, that same one parking space is used by an average of 10 people for that same hour. So it brings more people downtown, which is what our goal is. Compared to other downtowns, you really don't have to walk very far, maybe a block or two, to get to the business that you want. I mean, I've been to other downtowns, and I feel very lucky if I get a spot even kind of remotely close, let alone right in front of the business that I want to go to. I think if your downtown is being built up, I mean, it's kind of a good problem to have.
Parking's always a good problem to have.
So I wouldn't disagree with losing those spaces. And really, there are only 2 or 3 spaces, right? I think on under 7A and D, they also had a question. They said, okay, so we're going to be putting out $20,000 to build this parklet. We understand it's temporary in nature, but we may want to partner with somebody. And why can't we do some sort of tasteful logo or tasteful small advertising to recognize the private capital investment that's going into downtown? And I don't really know the logical reason for why we wouldn't allow that. I mean, if it was done in a tasteful way.
Are you finished?
I'm not quite done yet. And then E, the renewal fee of $100. They would like to see the businesses I talk to either no renewal fee, or I understand that their business license for the city, $30, right, every year, and something more consistent with the business license fee, $30. That's really all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilor Nelson?
So to add to or to comment on, I'm a business owner. If I'm going to have a chance to make more money, $500 is a pretty small amount of money to put out. And I completely appreciate that they have a lot of things they have to do as a business owner. But frankly, that's part of doing business. That's where I stand on that one. And truthfully, I think it's a great idea, because if they don't have skin in the game, they can do whatever they want. On the other side of it, the 10 to 20 to 30,000 that they may put out in a parklet, you can put some signage on there, but I'm not allowed to put a billboard up anywhere other than on a billboard. So as a business owner, you can only do certain things because we have certain rules. So I think you're off to a great start. I think this is a beautiful way to begin with downtown. I think you're heading in the right direction. Stay small, stay simple our first year, and then we can have a look at it later on.
I have one more comment, if I could. Rather than just allow 2 in downtown or 3 in the whole downtown, could we look at maybe a maximum of 2 per block?
Vice Mayor, I think, actually, there's so much meat here. It's almost like this needs to go back to the drawing board, because I can't tell what is going to be accepted in this plan and what isn't. And so I hear these comments, but I can tell you right now, until I know what's in the plan, I don't think we can vote on approving a plan that we don't know what's in it. And this is a lot of new recommendations.
Yep.
And they're valid recommendations, but I think they have to be factored in and brought back. How many will we serve? I've heard now 2 per block, 2 overall, 3 overall. I'd like to know what you're really recommending. And so I'm willing to listen to other comments, but at this point where I'm standing is, we have so much data to consider. You need to come back with all of that factored in. And these comments should be considered as you're designing. Yes, Manager Foggin.
I just want to point out that this is a 1-year pilot program.
Right.
And how it expands past that is sky's the limit, right? And, we just need something to get started with. And that's why we're showing up and saying, okay, let us take a bite at the apple. That's where the 2 came from, not arguing that the art hub and the theater into the future, or the idea of 2 per block isn't something that we would definitely be willing to look at. It would give us at least a pilot program for a year, would give us a feel for how are they maintained, how does it look, is it functioning the way we want it to function, is it displacing a lot of cars? Are the businesses
at with
using
it.
them?
I understand.
Yeah, so-
The question becomes, are we charging $500? Are we charging $250? I mean, I just feel like.
It is going to come back to you based on that.
Okay, so
So
we can,
not vote on
I think tonight, we need to send this back. I have a motion to send it back and bring it back maybe at the next council meeting with some
We don't have
modification.
we don't have a motion on that yet.
Your Honor,
I know,
could we,
go
could we
ahead.
at least, could we get the rest of the suggestions? I mean, you've given us a large plate
Well,
here.
May I ask one more question? As I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, staff from the city went out and did a bunch of research on what other cities were doing and took the best parts of those policies and put it together, and they didn't reach out to the downtown business owners or get any feedback from them, correct me if I'm wrong, and they put it in front of council, and so it's almost like we're diagnosing before we actually prescribe. I mean, if this is a program that we're envisioning helping our downtown business owners, then they should be involved in the creation. If you want somebody in on the landing, they got to be in on the takeoff, right? So I think that they should be a part, rather than a council member coming to council meeting and having to be the messenger person, convening all these business owner comments to staff. It would be better if staff were to just directly go downtown and sit down with a copy of the policy or whatever you're thinking and just go through it with them and get some feedback. And then you take all that and you amalgamate it into some sort of a policy that's going to work for everybody. That's fair.
Mayor,
Yes.
may I? I think that actually what you're doing is a very smart thing, because what you've done is created something for a year, for a small time, that we now have something that we've never done before. Now we're able to put a small plan together and step out there and say, all right, guys, we got to work through this. And we have 2 or 3 businesses that actually have the opportunity to come in and ask to be part of it. They don't necessarily have an idea. We didn't have one until we went and did the research. Now we've done the research for them, so let's take it to them. But let's take it to them as a plan. It's a year program. I think it's a great idea.
I just think that sounds like big government being prescribing something to business owners, and they're the ones that are bringing in the money and creating the sales tax rate. So I think they should be at the table.
Well,
Not our
I think-
intention to remove.
Pardon?
It was not our intention to remove the businesses from this, just to be clear on that.
No, this is a great beginning, and it is a great, it's a great pilot, and you've done a lot of homework. And it is true that this will be a plus. It's an opportunity for the businesses downtown to expand their footprint, which is a big deal. And it will result in better business for them, increased sales tax for us. And so it should be perceived all as plus win-win. And quite frankly, until I knew all these comments, I was like, this is a good start. And my only concern now is that our downtown businesses need to feel like they've had a say at all. So I kind of am concerned about that. And even though it's a pilot, I don't know why we wouldn't factor in some of these comments and decide and go down and talk to them. And I mean, it's hard to say we really need this $500 when you're not sure we need the $500. It could be $250. And so I don't know if there could be some tweaks made for a good pilot program even.
We would love to hear the rest of comments, and then we will be happy if you table it for another discussion.
I think, and when do you think it would come back?
I don't know. It won't be the next.
Okay.
Our plate, Mayor, is so full right now.
I
because
know,
of
you're
planning
running,
and
you're
zoning
running on
updates
empty
and
just
stuff.
about, and I appreciate that. I just want it to be well-received, and the worst thing would be to put this out there and for the people that we really want to do these parklets to say, I'm not going to do it because they didn't even ask me and they didn't listen to me. I don't want that to happen. I don't think any one of us want that to happen. So,
And at this stage, it may happen next year.
well, you know, we haven't done this in the past, and this is brand new. I don't know. I don't know. It shouldn't happen in a year. It needs to come back before.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about that long, but not.
It's not going to be 2
by
weeks.
next council meeting.
No,
There's-
that's okay.
Our-
I think we can, you know, just to have
Game on, I
that
guess.
touch base with our primary targeted audience, that we want to use this, and say, we understand you have some concerns, and we're tweaking a little bit, and whatever you're going to do, and then bring it back, knowing that we have support. It is true that you want the buy-in of your targeted market when you take this thing out, to feel like they're receiving it well and they're going to do it, rather than, they didn't listen or they didn't ask, right?
Yeah.
So I will entertain a motion to
I-
do something.
I think that if you look at the record after the clerk's office is done with it, all of the comments that we received are not huge, complex
No, they're not.
things. It just gives the business owners a feeling of buy-in, a feeling of participation, and we want to make sure that the pilot is successful. So I don't know how much time it takes to send somebody down to speak with our business owners over a few blocks, and then just put all that together, but hopefully it wouldn't be more than a couple months.
We will have it back to you as soon as we possibly can, but a timeline at this point would be impossible to give you. But we will work on it diligently, as
And
we have
I would
already.
really like to know their reactions to that consent form. I don't know if they had any comments about that, but that's a big deal too, to do, they did. I really think that's a big deal, and so talking to them could have a lot of merit. Because they're going to have to ask their neighbors to consent to them doing it. That's a big piece of this pie. So I would entertain a motion regarding tabling it, if that is what the council, if that's the direction we want to go.
Real quick before a motion, just to make a quick comment, I'd like to
Certainly.
just throw a wrench into the whole thing.
Throw the wrench. Council.
But I heard a lot of suggestions made. I will point out just a word of caution when considering all of the suggestions that were made. It looks like some of them would have to either go together or not go at all. But one of the suggested changes were to permit not only food and drink establishments, but other retail businesses or other businesses to participate as well. And then the other one, no advertising logos, and the suggestion was to possibly allow logos. And I feel that those would either have to both go or both not go, because I can see if you're a downtown business owner and you're not a food and drink
Profit maker.
establishment, and you see that food and drink establishments now get to put their logos on things, and they're restricted based on their signage. Those things wouldn't be able to go together. Does that make sense? So I would just caution, if we were going to consider some of those changes, that we keep in mind that some of those it would be bad if some of them went and some of them didn't, and those that being one of the scenarios.
Because nonprofits probably would have to have a sponsored recognition.
Your point's well taken. When we did the research, what these communities did by avoiding the extra signage and everything was to keep that clean look. Maybe a small plaque honoring it if it was a not-for-profit or something like that. But again, when we went through all the photographs that we were able to get from these communities, that's what you saw was a clean look. You had that nice-looking streetscape. The plants and all that were appropriate. So, your point's well taken.
And Gary, in talking with the business owners, when that topic came up, they weren't thinking about anything huge and obnoxious like a billboard. They had questions like under branding, under advertising. Well, what if we have tables and chairs out there and they have our logo on them? It doesn't seem like it's included or appropriate under the guidelines because it's advertising. Stuff like that.
The signing really pertained to any of the partitions put up on the street, whether it was street side, would be the divider that
Sure.
kept the traffic, off of the out of the restaurant area or the partition that was on the street side
Mhm.
that designated sidewalk.
Sure. Well, I think the policy as it was written was silent on whether or not you could have your logo on tables and chairs and things like that.
This is a wonderful presentation, Mr. Kellogg. Yes,
Well,
Councilman.
along with Councilmember Lingenfelter was saying too, like napkins, all different things you could print on, that kind of stuff could be allowable. Like you said, no signage on a structure, for example, or something like that.
Yeah.
One comment referring to Section 7 under A, general, and then F, said designed for easy removal because of emergency. For example, let's say there was an emergency, it got quickly removed, things were damaged. Who's going to be liable? The owner of that, because as we've talked about, thousands of dollars have been spent on making these improvements. Who's going to be liable for that quick removal if something is damaged? Is the city, or is it, this is just another comment
That's a
that
good
was
point.
popped in my mind at what we should think about.
Liability, yeah.
Good point.
Jot it down. Okay. Many minds make better decisions. Okay. Any other comments? Very good. Then I would entertain a motion to table this and bring it back when all these comments and suggestions are factored in.
I move we table this item for a later date.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second to table this and factor in all of the comments that have been made and bring it back. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you.
Great progress.
Sort
Uh, No, it is. It is great progress. It's just now,
No, I got you.
it's always, it's like remodeling. It's the finishing touches that take some time to. Okay, department reports. We are going to have Mr. Kellogg give us an economic development update.
Okay. First of all, I want to acknowledge certainly my ED team, which is Sylvia Bennett here, so they're an integral part of that. This evening, I was asked, I'm going to give you an update on the ED, and I'm going to also give you an update on the tourism side. And so, first of all, I want to make sure that we keep publicizing it, and that is tomorrow night, the Planning and Zoning at 6 o'clock in these chambers has our first update from the consultant to talk about our P&Z updated regulations. And so that is one of many meetings that will take place, but we're still early in the process, but he's going to be here, and we did mailings to a lot of people, a lot of emails to make sure that the people came here where we are, what steps we're in, and got their input. So again, what I'd like to do is talk about some of the accomplishments on the ED side. And this year so far, we've completed 2 websites. One was choosekingman.com. The other one was choosekingman.com, data.com. And these were key, and they are excellent websites. So those are off and running. And we completed 2 land sales with revenues of $406,000 for our future airport improvements. We also applied for and were awarded a $275,000 grant to build 3 roads in the Kingman Industrial Park. And I really wanted to tip the hat here to Bennett. He's restored our relationship with the county and certainly the road department. So now we really have a great partner, which would have been nice to have all along. And now this road thing is, they've been meeting regularly now with our people and everything, getting this thing ready to roll to replace these roads. Building expansion and retention efforts have resulted in continued employee and infrastructure growth at the park. American Wood Mart storage expansion and new parking lot construction, the purchase of quite a bit of new equipment. We've been working with Big Industrial to market the new leases on the 620,000 square feet that became available as a result of the fiberglass company out there. And so we work closely with them because we know we have that available to us now. JM Eagle rail extension and storage extension and purchase of new equipment. They're expanding. That'll mean a few more new employees. We also worked with a company, Diamond Chemical, and they are in the process. They purchased a company out there. We help them with various parts of the permits and walk them through and help answer a lot of questions. And I think that's probably one of the most important things that's taken place is that Bennett has established relationships with all of these industries. And so we don't just bring you in and leave you there, or you sell and have nobody to ask the questions to. So we become that ombudsman for them. And that has proved out to be very well in their case. And we partnered with Mojave County on the roadways. And as you remember, we had to persist a little bit on them acquiring them after we get them up to snuff. We continue to add additional signage for all the existing businesses at the industrial park. We've received a number of compliments now from folks. They can find their way around, and more important than anything was the new drivers that come here for the first time. They were wandering all over that place. Now they can go right to that business and they're there. So we continue to identify anybody new that comes into the park, make sure that that sign. The other thing that we did is the large sign out in front, the illuminated one, we replaced all of that with LED lighting. We fixed it up. We didn't charge anybody on the sign because our philosophy has been, God, we're just glad to have you in the park. So if you furnish us your logo, we'll make sure that gets taken care of. We continue to work on various landscaping and maintenance. One of the things that we have as a long haul is certainly working on Mojave Drive. We've gotten rid of a number of the dead trees, continue just to clean things up. And so I will tell you that the staff that works, certainly even on the airport side, if you see it, let's clean it up. Let's just continue to make sure that the place looks really good. We've worked with other landowners and business owners out there who have been neglectful a little bit, maybe not keeping up their property. So it's the same thing. You know, I think what we've led by example there. We've newly leased some city-owned buildings that were vacant for over 5 years on Interstate Way. We completed marketing documents and property flyers for city-owned property that we use on a continual basis. Continue to partner with Mojave County Economic Development for potential projects looking to locate in the unincorporated areas outside of Kingman. One of the things that when Bennett joined us that I asked him to do was continue to have that relationship on those projects that he had been a part of when he was still at the county. And so we maintain that relationship with Tammy over there now. So how can we help? Because we know those jobs come out of Kingman. So that's important. We put together a marketing prospectus for opportunity zones. That's on our website. We've also worked with the Patriot Rail to continue to look at any improvements on rail service. We've also located a new transloading operation, and this was working in conjunction with them, with Patriot Rail. The other thing that we happened, and I know you already know this, but Sylvia will be transitioning out of planning and zoning, Sylvia Schaefer. She will then she's joining our ED team. So we actually will have an interview this Thursday with a prospective candidate for the planning and zoning job. But we're going to make this a slow transition so that we don't abandon that $200,000 investment we made on updating the regs. So we're going to do that slowly and surely. But Sylvia will be focusing primarily on commercial and retail. So we'll still all work as a team, but that will be one of her primary focuses, and also interfacing with, for an example, anybody in the downtown associations, so that we have that, always have that connection, whether it's myself or Sylvia or Bennett. So we have developed now, and we'll be reporting this next month on our development strategy plan, so that we can continue to track that. We completed an impact study at the airport. We did this in conjunction with Mojave County. That was a real eye-opener on the taxes, the base, the jobs, and everything else that go along. And that's on our website. And as a point of information, we updated the community profile, and that has been reestablished on there and updated the information on that. And we attended this just last year, the ICS show in Vegas, and so we are getting ourselves on a regular schedule, and we'll probably coordinate certainly with the county on those issues there. So again, that's just kind of things in a nutshell, but kind of gives you what we've done to date. Now, like to take just a minute or two and talk to you a little bit about what's happening certainly on the tourism side. Our visitor center has seen almost a 58% increase in traffic over this last year. We've added 3 additional part-time people, which helps a lot. It certainly helps on our sales and also helps on our customer service aspect. 2 of those folks are in place, and we're currently trying to interview for that 3rd position. Something very interesting, from June 11th till about August 30th, we did some 2,900 surveys addressing the what they call the WeChat, the Chinese market surveys. And the survey's questions ask about age, gender, how the respondents reached or booked their trips, what cities and attractions they visited. And it was kind of cool. One of the things that we used for a little enticement to do these surveys was working with the museum folks on the Route 66 museum upstairs. They get a free pass into that. They also get this neat little pin that came from the state, and people like that sort of thing. So one of the interesting facts that came out of there, and we're going to learn a lot more, but almost 27% of the respondents indicated they were staying overnight in Kingman. So one of the trends that we did see was we looked and say, all right, the visitor center, and then we looked at the hotel occupancy. Folks weren't leaving. They trend together. So that was certainly something good that we found out. Building improvements, we remodeled the front patio. We removed the landscaping rock, and it was difficult to maintain, and put pavers and concrete in. We added a new ADA ramp for the off-boarding of the buses, and they picked up on that immediately. It makes it very easy for the buses to come around and access. We added custom locomotive and Route 66 themed benches. They have been a real hit. There's 4 of them out in front along with 2 waste receptacles, and they actually laser in a locomotive and then the Route 66 emblems. The interesting part about that, when we've redone the patio out in front, we also added cigarette buttlers, just to make it a cleaner look. And then the 66 Association replaced the roadside attraction signs. The result of all this is we found people are staying a lot longer. They're milling out in front, they're sitting down with their families, maybe they're grabbing that, maybe having a lunch thing or a sandwich or something, but they're staying. And the interesting part is on these benches, they're using them as photo ops. So they'll place a person on each side, so the logo shows up in the middle, bingo, they got another picture. So that improvement has really been nice. They're currently remodeling the 66 gift shop. It's a facelift, and it will match the industrial look certainly of the building. And then they're adding an office and a fitting room. The renovation of the office spaces and the conference room, we started upstairs on what was at one time the old chamber offices, and that suite's being renovated to accommodate the tourism staff and the economic development retail. And maybe at some point in time, we hope that maybe Sylvia will have a new home there and when she transitions from out of planning. And also that will be where we will house the new Vista person. And that Vista person is a reminder, this is the person coming from Local First Arizona, which will probably be coming around November 1st. And so we'll be overseeing and monitoring that. We're the major partner there, you guys, as you know. So, and the former retail space too, is we've looked at it, and one of the things we're going to attempt to do is certainly look at saying, can we take down that wall between the 2 conference rooms? We're getting more and more of a demand for that kind of public space, and even from some of the folks that are coming in from the travel things saying, can we do a dinner here this evening if we have it catered, and be able to expand that room. It's a beautiful facility for that. So we're working on that. Miscellaneous reservations, we've rekeyed the facility under the recommendations of the fire department. We've added an EV charging station, which is south of the building towards the tracks. We put in a 220/30 amp. We're already upgrading that to a 40 amp dual facility. And so that'll be done here probably within the next few weeks. The elevator wall was repainted, funded by the Route 66 Association, and we decorated with artifacts on loan from the museum. We've added wall lighting upstairs to illuminate the model railroad and signage, and again, funded by the museum. And we also cleaned up that Ramada out in front. And so we replaced, cleaned it all up, we replaced all the glass and everything. And the other thing that we've done is on the museum on the lower level, we've had all the painting, all the railing was painted. Again, this was funded by the museum. That was just completed this month. And the Main Street, we worked with them. We created a new case out in front for the new map for the city. And so I know Councilman Staley is familiar with the program that Main Street has done this unique mapping. So we became one of the key partners here. And so we bought a new thing. It's weather protected and everything, but it allows the folks when they come up would be on your left side going in, is they'll see that nice looking. Gift shop sales, they're up over, they're at 43% increase over last year. We maintain about a 55% profit margin there. We installed, as a test run, a lottery machine. The Arizona Lottery approached us, and we said, all right, let's see if we can do this. Thanks to Tina and her group, we had to work through the financials piece, because you really have to control that money and the tickets and everything. And so that has, we're going to run it for a while and see how it does. Made staff a little crazy for a while. Now I see why people in stores go nuts over lottery sales. So the other thing that I wanted to let you know is that we have in that gift shop over 50 items that are what they call name drop. That is, they have a designation of Kingman. So the newest being is a custom copper coin, and then we have that penny smasher and things like that. At the next meeting next week of the Economic Development and Marketing Group, we will be again looking at and addressing the highest and best uses of the powerhouse, so we'll continue that. We also, Mr. Foggin had asked us, he said, would you and Josh take on a little project? And what we were hoping to do, and I believe we will have, and that is to add a little wow factor to the arch, okay? And so we learned a lot about neon signing, okay? More than I'll ever want to know, but I think you're going to be very pleasantly surprised. And so we're just about ready to embark on that. So it looks it'll look very, very nice. It'll have that retro look too. So, and with that, we will also be addressing now, we have the plans for the drive-through arch, or the drive-through shield, and the new retro looking sign for the entrance to the powerhouse. Now remember too that the Route 66 Association is our partner on both of those signs to the tune of about $10,000. So that'll certainly offset that. And tomorrow we will have here our first meeting with the branding company. So they will be here. What we'll be discussing is just the very starts of the game plan, how we'll proceed from here. But this will be this is almost an informal visit on their part. So we'll have I'll have some time tomorrow to talk to them. We'll be laying out the game plan and get back so that all the appropriate parties are there. So with that, I certainly will open it up to any questions, but I just wanted to give you a brief update. So.
Thank you. Questions? Questions?
I have one question. With regard to the new position that Sylvia's going to be taking on, and she's going to have a retail focus, is that right?
Yes.
Just an observation that, there's going to be a lot of people in Kingman that can probably use this, but I know that a lot of the commercial, the retail stores, the restaurants, they all have their site location requirements, and one of the things they look at is trade area. They want to make sure that the trade area meets all their requirements. But right now, they have to rely on secondary data sources when they're trying to establish if the trade area is there that they need or not, because Kingman, there's not really any primary data available from the city or anybody else on this is our trade area for retail, restaurants, that kind of thing. So do you think that that's maybe something that the city could look at? Maybe creating some data that you could hand to a company that either has restaurants or retail or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that's only one thing that they look at. They look at, the building leases and that kind of stuff. But in order to say, look, this is our trade area, we're backing this up. This is
one of the things, too, Vice Mayor, that we have looked at recently, and that is we ask ourselves, we're a small staff, and we're trying to promote ourselves in a big way. And so we have gone out and talked to vendors who can assist us in this area. And one of the things we looked at was saying, would that be a good way to spend our marketing? So yes, we will be looking at that.
Yeah.
So, and on the data side, I believe, Ben, we have some data already on development.
Yeah, some, yeah. Anything, like, as far as establishing that trade area that we can push out to the brokers, everybody in town, you know, that are our partners that are doing that work, it's just good for the city.
Well, I think one of the things we found in talking with these professional folks, that they recruit, they really put the packages together. That it may be the money well spent for us because of, you know, they can really beat the bushes when we can't always beat.
Right.
So yes, we are looking at it.
Thank you.
I hope that was helpful.
That was very good, very helpful. Thank you, Mr. Kellogg. My question was going to be, how many are in your staff? That's a lot of work for that small group. A lot of progress. Okay. We are down to announcements by mayor, council members, and the city manager. Manager Foggin, do you have any announcements tonight?
Just an invite to the Andy Devine Days. This is our last council meeting before that happens. And my team, we worked hard to put this together, and I think it's going to be a great event. So make sure that the council's invited and the community has it on their calendar, because it's going to be a good event. So
Thank you. Yes. Councilman Watkins?
Mayor, I have nothing.
Okay. Councilman Wade? Okay. Councilor Nelson? Okay. Vice Mayor?
Nothing this evening.
Wow, just me, huh? Okay, well, I have a few things. I want to announce that this Friday night, if you want to join me at the Kingman Kabam Poetry Slam, I'm going to be there giving a proclamation about Kabam, which is Kingman Area Books Are Magic. I think it's in its 14th year. I see Bruce is, okay, I see some of the... Now, wait a minute. Okay, all right, so be it. So, but I am the mayor that will be down there this Friday night giving a proclamation celebrating Kingman Area Books Are Magic. And this... Not the mayor who went in the dump.
Yes, you went in the dump tank.
I did that.
Yes.
Okay, now, I have done that. What I do for this. No, but this is a great organization for 14 years celebrating the fact that literacy, and you know how that is a huge workforce issue, actually, is how critically important it is, and making it fun. And these poets are going to be down there, and I look forward to it at Beale Street Brews on 6 o'clock Friday night, and then it's followed the next day by the actual festival, the book festival, and the writers' conference at the Beale Celebrations. So, you know, if you're downtown, make some time, or if you just want to have a fun thing on Friday night, that Poetry Slam is always, has a lot of interesting poems and poets. Okay, now I'd just like to look backwards a little bit, because I have some thanks to give to, especially on the Youth Soccer League. I want to thank them, and as well as the other sponsors, Unisource, Walker Electric, KRMC, and our parks people for installing new soccer lights at Centennial Park. We have a lot of lights there that, and they're really impressive. And so I was able to attend, and as we celebrated those new lights, and we just keep expanding these opportunities for our kids, and I appreciate all those partners. And then I also would like to thank Catherine Normoyle and the Girl Scout Troop 2074 on the 9/11 celebration remembrance for remembering and honoring our first responders and remembering those that passed. That was a beautiful ceremony that we all really felt very honored to be there, and also the fire department was there, so I'd like to thank Chief Rhodes and all the people that were there from our fire department. And finally, I'd just like to mention that this is Constitution Week, and I give a lot of proclamations, but I'm going to tell you, we are just honoring important things that are going on in our community, because that was the Daughters of American Revolution, and they had a meeting this past Saturday, and that proclamation honored them and also our heritage, as well as pointing out that this is Constitution Week, that we don't forget, the founding document of our liberties. And so there's always a lot going on in town, but we have many fun things, as Manager Foggin has said, looking forward to in the coming months. So that's my report. And now we'll move on to council requests for future work session agenda items and/or calendar adjustments. Do we have any any revisions, suggestions? Okay, then let's move to executive session. Bennett versus City of Kingman. The city attorney requests that the city council go into executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431-03A4 for discussion and guidance regarding the Bennett versus City of Kingman litigation. Discussion and/or action may be taken in open meeting after the executive session. Do I have a motion to go into executive session? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Let's go.
What time is the thing on Saturday? The Kabam, the book of
Good night.